Oh, there we go.
Nation.
Yeah. Oh, hey.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Here we are again,
Ode.
Gwyn and Ode, and we're here with Macha Nightmare.
M.
Macha Nightmare.
Yep.
It's okay without the
M or no M, Macha
M
Nightmare.
or no M,
It's
Macha Nightmare.
memorable.
And she's one of the presenters
Yes.
here.
One of the
at-
ritualists.
Yes, one of the ritualists at Michigan Pagan Fest. And so we want to share some information with you about her and have her talk to you because she's doing some very important work.
So first of all, just tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got on your path.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's always the big question. Everyone's always like, "Oh gosh, where do I start?"
Where do I start?
Well, how I came onto the path is through second wave feminism,
Okay.
which was a long time ago. And I found a religion that honored female divine, feminine divine. And it never even occurred to me. I had a fairly strong religious upbringing in Abrahamic faiths. My family was considered a mixed marriage
Okay.
because my father was Catholic and my mother was Methodist.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see
But
where
in
that
those
would
days,
be.
I mean, it was so bad that
Yeah.
none of their family came to their wedding. They weren't
Oh my
allowed.
gosh.
They couldn't marry in the church. They had to marry in
Mhm.
the parents' house.
Yeah.
Nowadays, a mixed marriage is
Right.
a
Yeah.
lot spicier, but they were just two white Americans. Anyway, so it was a lot of pressure, and I left it, but I had a void.
Mhm.
I didn't have a spiritual part of myself.
Mhm.
And so I found craft, and I went to a talk at a cult store, and this woman was there were only 3 people there with the speaker, but the speaker was Starhawk.
Oh,
Starhawk.
wow, that's
Wow.
a good
That's
start.
a good
I
start.
want to say that was 1975. Yeah, 75.
Okay, cool.
And so we started being invited to rituals, and then people wanted to know more. I wanted to know more. The other people who had been invited to rituals from time to time wanted to know more. And eventually it morphed into reclaiming.
Yeah, and did you become part of Reclaiming?
I'm one of the founders.
You're one of the
yeah.
founders of
Yeah,
Reclaiming. Very
They
cool.
do some of the stuff that I cooked up. But
Oh, very
I'm
cool.
not involved anymore. So.
Okay.
So what caused you to step away from reclaiming?
It's on my blog.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
On my blog, the blog is at Broomstick Chronicles, sm.blogspot.com, and it's from August of 2012.
Okay. So if you want to know what caused M. Macha Nightmare to step away from reclaiming, you can go find that on her blog. Because we have a lot of other stuff to discuss.
That's
For
right.
example, you are involved in a lot of interfaith work and sort of trying to sort of knit communities together. Does any of that come from your upbringing as a Christian, or where does that spring from?
Well,
That
now that
impulse?
you mention it, I don't know if it's as a Christian, but certainly my family
Mhm.
was very social and community. My father did a Lions Club, my mother did a lot of stuff at the church.
Mhm.
And I did a lot of stuff when I was a kid. I did a lot of, Methodist Youth Fellowship and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But I don't know. I like people, and I like to circulate, and I like to learn a lot of opinions and ways to do stuff. And so I didn't originally think that it had anything to do with my upbringing, but I can see that my parents, the way they relate to the world, I'm carrying some of that on,
Yeah.
except in the pagan world.
That's very cool, though. It's because I do think we do need to have more interconnection and more cooperation within different various faiths,
For sure.
and find that connection. We were talking about that earlier.
We were, yeah. And there's even an extent to which we need interfaith cooperation and interfaith connections just in the pagan community.
Yep.
Because we've started this, started, but
always been
it's
there,
always
kind
been
of.
there, and it's just continued. This sort of schisming where, like the heathens and the Wiccans
Yeah.
don't commingle,
And the witches and the Wiccans.
don't,
and,
yeah,
you
and
know,
the druids
are in
and the
there
heathens
somewhere,
don't are
you
like,
know.
and it's interesting that we're very much allowing the little things to divide us
Mhm.
instead of allowing the big things to connect us.
Exactly.
You're right, and generally that's called intra-faith, although I don't
Right, but
I don't really consider it that way. But anyways, no, back in the day, we were all in the broom closet.
mhm.
You didn't even know people's names. It's one of the reasons people took magical names, was so that if somebody was tortured,
Mhm,
they
right.
couldn't say who they were with. So, but it started out Witchen, Witchen, inclined,
Okay.
from Wicca, and it got more refined. It started strands of other other perspectives or other ways to practice
Mhm.
arose from that. So it was really kind of very Wiccan oriented,
Mhm.
and I've always called myself a witch, not a Wiccan. I consider the British traditions to be Wiccan for the
Mhm.
most part,
Same.
and we're very eclectic. And I don't have British tradition training. I've worked with a lot of Brit trad people. I do most Sabbaths with the Gardnerian coven, but it's not mine, and I didn't get any training.
Right.
And I really love to go to different kinds of rituals,
Mhm.
and that are done by different people, and they may even be the same kind of ritual, like an initiation or something.
Mhm.
But I did. I was in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I was invited. It was a festival. And because it was a festival, people got together from a lot of parts of Brazil that they're not usually all around each other. And they did an initiation while I was there, and they asked me, they said, "You want to come?" And I said, "Sure." And they had a translator next to me, but I could understand enough of things like the church and stuff.
Yeah.
I could understand enough of the Portuguese. Almost didn't need her. I just recognized
Recognize
yeah,
the motions
the
and the things that they were
universality of it.
doing.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
that's
was really
beautiful.
interesting.
Yeah, that's very cool.
That's very cool. That's neat to know that that we are so interconnected in that even a language barrier,
Isn't that much of a
isn't that
barrier.
much of a barrier.
Yeah.
When it comes to spiritual practice.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of witches and other pagans too in Brazil.
Oh, that's cool. That's very
I
cool
know.
because you kind
Yeah,
of
I
think
think
of
we-
it.
I think we
because in
actually have some
Brazil-
listeners in
Is
Brazil.
it Brazil or Argentina that has the big statue of Jesus?
Brazil,
That's-
Rio.
Is it,
Yeah, that's
okay,
Brazil,
okay.
yeah.
Because I know that a lot of the southern or South American
America.
and Central American countries are Catholic, very
Yes.
very highly Catholic. So I was wondering, if there
Depending
was
on the
a
imperialism.
Yeah, but there is you do see a high degree of you do see a high degree of syncretism.
that's true.
Absolutely.
That's true.
Mhm.
So that's really beautiful. That's cool.
Which I think craft is too, very syncretic.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
definitely.
Actually, I think most religions are syncretic.
Right.
I would agree with you on that.
Well, and there used to be, I don't know if there still is, but there used to be essentially like a panel, as I understand it, in the Catholic Church that back in the day, back when they were
College of Cardinals, something like that.
something like that,
Yeah,
yeah. Who individual Catholic priests in unconverted parishes would introduce Catholic ritual to the population while converting them, and pieces of local tradition and ritual would get pulled in,
Oh, sure.
Okay.
and they would send reports back to the Vatican saying, "Here's what we're doing where I am. Is this acceptable?" And then the Catholic Church at large would decide, like,
Yeah.
if it was
Too
accepted,
pagan?
right? If it was too pagan, or if it could be incorporated into Catholicism.
Okay.
I don't know if that still takes place, but that was part of the process
You can't, no,
of conversion.
They can't
Yeah.
convert them if they don't.
Exactly. That was part of the process of converting populations to Catholicism, was pulling in as much as you could of local traditions and just like matching them up to Catholic traditions,
Right.
so that they were comfortable.
And building a church in a sacred grove or a
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
sacred
take
spring.
over the
Yep.
spots and stuff. Now you were saying what we were talking about was intra-faith, but
Mhm.
what you really work on is interfaith.
Mhm.
Both,
So
actually, yeah.
Right,
But,
yeah.
So explain more about what you do.
Well, I'm a member of the one I do the most activity with.
Sorry, guys.
One
we
second,
have
there's an announcement.
The floor is going to be wet. Careful.
Oh, that's a very important announcement. There's wet
Safety
floors.
announcements.
Safety announcements. So we got to interrupt.
Sorry. So I belong to a council called the Marin Interfaith Council,
Okay.
which is where I live in Marin County, California. And some of my best friends in that council are Dominican sisters. They're really lovely. They have problems of their own because there's no young people coming.
Mhm.
But they're really lovely people, and they put their money where their mouth is. And they, what I find we share, not just with the Catholic sisters, but with everybody in the council, is shared values.
Yeah.
So we do efforts, anti-war or not having a war in the first place. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just skip the war.
Skip the war,
after
man.
Anti-capital punishment and
Mhm.
Environmental, social justice, social justice especially.
Yeah.
Now, my local council has, because of where it is which is kind of ground zero of the new age, it has a lot of Buddhists and it has a lot of progressive Christians, and it has a lot of the standard, the standard Abrahamic congregations. And we have Baha'i, but we have no Hindus, and I don't think there are very many in the county. And we have very few Muslims for the same reason. There aren't many that live there.
There's not a high population.
There are bigger ones. My friend Rowan Fairgrove is a co-founder of an interfaith group called the Silicon Valley Interreligious Council. And it actually, I think interreligious is a more accurate term because our stuff, for most of us, is not based on faith.
Yeah, for a lot of
It's based
people.
on practice.
Yeah.
But it's the term, so I will go with it. Just like I go with pastoral counseling, though I hate the term because it's, it's a term of ours. That's what they do. The practice they do is called pastoral counseling.
Yeah.
But to me, that's shepherd.
Yeah.
But so I go with interfaith, and I mean that's my choice.
Got to use the
So-
shared language.
Yep.
The big interfaith event, the big international one, is the Parliament of the World's Religions, which began. The first one was in 1893 as part of the Chicago World's Fair,
Okay.
and one of the primary speakers was Vivekananda. And it was really since then that that the Western world has been open to Eastern traditions and vice versa. So, I mean, there wasn't a yoga studio in every strip mall.
Yeah.
For that.
Right.
Not that that's necessarily religion, but it can be.
Yeah. For some people.
Yeah. And so that was a big deal. And there was a Cardinal Bernardine, the Cardinal of Chicago, made a proposal to somebody, his colleagues, I guess, to do a centennial. So they had a centennial in 1993, and COG was a Covenant of the Goddess, who I represent in Interfaith, was really on the ground floor of that. We had a lot of presentations. There was a group from a wonderful choir from New England called Mother Tongue, which is out of the Earth Spirit community. Yeah, they have some recordings too. You can find them online. They're really beautiful, and I was not there. These are tales I heard. But they did a concert, and there were all kinds of presentations, talks, panels, concerts, and I guess Magnus McBride. What is his other name? Jeff McBride, who is a world famous magician, stage magician. And it was, I guess the songs had to do with fire, or at least some of them, and he did apparently some fire magic.
Oh my goodness!
As I said, I wasn't there, but it was quite
dramatic.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, and that's a pretty big pagan contribution.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then
31 ships for sale, full 5.
we have a little competition here.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yes, they're competing to sell shirts for pagans in need.
That's right. Pagans in need.
So, but from that time, 93, about every 5 years or so, they've done a parliament, but they've always been in different countries. Cape Town, South Africa, and Barcelona, Spain, and Melbourne, Australia. There wasn't one in the United States again until 2015 in Salt Lake City.
Yes, I remember hearing about the 2015 Parliament. Yeah.
And I did go to that. That was the one that Phyllis created a whole women's program. And she can tell you more about that. But as part of that, I submitted a proposal that was accepted, and it just blows my mind. I'm so happy. It was one of the best things I ever did. I have a friend named Lauren Rain, Raine, and you can find her at rainwalker.com, who is an artist, and she has created a series of goddess masks that are stunning.
Oh
They
my
are stunning.
goodness.
Yeah.
They're really beautiful.
What is her site again?
Rainwalker.com?
Rainwalker.com.
Yeah, Rainwalker with an E in the middle. Rain,
Okay.
Raine.
RAINE Walker.com.
Right.
Cool.
Or you can look up Masks of the Goddess too. She has a
Masks
site.
of the Goddess. Okay.
That sounds really cool.
That sounds gorgeous.
They're
Yeah.
spectacular. I can't tell you how beautiful they are. So she had originally, I had invited her to a planning meeting for the Spiral Dance, which is an annual Samhain ritual that Reclaiming was doing.
Yeah.
And she got inspired to make masks for that. So we had about, 18 or so masks.
Oh my gosh.
And I
Wow.
was luckily wore one. I wore the Morgan, which was just so scary. This mask was so amazing. It's been bought by someone. I don't know where it is now.
Uh-huh.
But it's so scary that people would tie it on me and then go around front and be put off. And little kids were running away
Oh
from
my
me. I
word.
mean, it's true. Little kids were running away. But we had they weren't all scary goddesses. But we had like a procession of goddesses. That's
very cool.
That is very cool.
But they were only there for like a couple minutes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
really didn't get a chance to.
To really
Take them
appreciate
in.
To
it.
experience them.
So
Yeah.
I decided that they deserved more. And so I created a ritual performance that I proposed for a local Pantheon. But it was an early Pantheon before it got as established. And it got turned down. And then one of the presenters who was going to be doing a concert had to back out. So they called me at the last minute to do that. And of course, I hadn't really been prepared. So I had to hustle. Because you have to recruit people to wear the masks.
Right.
I chose only 13 masks because there are 13 rounds of the silver wheel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she had lots more, but I had to choose from among the masks.
Yeah.
that
So how do
she
you
had
make that?
made.
How do you make that
choice?
decision?
That had to be
Trying
hard.
to tell you.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be quiet.
So I picked some of the ones that were commonly known, like Hecate and Artemis
Yeah.
and Isis and Bridget.
Mm-hmm.
So people would already have
common.
some familiarity. And then I also tried to pick some that represented every continent or part of the world.
Oh wow.
So I had, we started with Amaterasu, who's Japanese. And there was Bridget, Inanna, Isis, Hecate, White Buffalo Captain,
Okay.
White Tara. Yeah, I think there was Kali in that one. They changed a little bit. Spider Woman, that's what I had. The first Native American one was Spider Woman, but the mask was too cumbersome. So other times I did it was White Buffalo Captain. But so we wrote. How do I explain it? I'll explain the layout. The space is set up with 3 pie-shaped wedges.
Okay.
And a central circle and 3 aisles.
Okay.
So the goddesses who, when they enter, they circumambulate the whole circus. I mean, the whole circle. And the participants are sitting in the middle.
Okay.
In these pie-shaped wedges. And as each goddess entered, she was the one who was featured, and she would enter the middle of the room and interrelate with some of the people who had attended.
The participants.
Yeah,
Right.
really pretty powerful.
Yeah, that sounds
Oh,
very
it
cool.
sounds amazing.
And so we had 3 speakers, goddess voices, in 3 places around behind each of the wedges. And they spoke the goddess words, I am this, I am that.
Oh, wow.
First person. But they did it in rotation. So each goddess had 3 voices.
Oh wow.
Because we don't know,
Right, yeah.
So it was pretty cool.
Is that
I mean, that's-
recorded anywhere or
Well-
photographed or anything like that?
Somebody tried. I did it at New College of California, which is a dead college. After that, because the woman who had attended it and attended the ritual at Pantheacon, which was rough
Mhm.
because I had to, we didn't have
Right.
any-
It was unexpected,
Right.
impromptu.
That was part of it. Was we didn't have all the stuff we needed. We didn't
Mhm.
have much to do with rehearsal, and we didn't have lighting and stuff. The idea was that it was a darkened room,
Mm.
and the one in the middle would be illuminated.
Mm.
Oh,
when she
okay.
was-
Gotcha.
But we didn't have lights, so I had people standing with mag lights, shining them on the goddess. But it got better. I got better
Hey,
technique.
sometimes you gotta improvise.
Yeah.
Right.
You do what you gotta.
But
do
it
what you
was
gotta do.
effective anyway, apparently.
Yeah.
And so I was asked to do another one at New College, and we did that. That was incredible. But and somebody did record it, but they didn't know what they were doing, and it was all dark, so
No.
it never showed. And I also at that one had a little chorus because it all has music as part of
Okay.
it.
Okay.
And it starts out with a song called "She's Been Waiting." I don't know if you know that song, but it's
I think I do know that one. Yeah.
She's been waiting.
Okay.
She's been waiting for so long.
Yep.
Waiting for her children to remember. So it starts out with that whole song, and then there's about maybe 30 seconds of music before each goddess comes in from where she's from.
Okay.
So like there was coda music for Amaterasu and some Julian pipes, I think, for Bridget, and for Hecate I had Miles Davis.
Mhm.
You can use any, and I had throat singing for
Whatever's-
Sedna.
yeah.
Sedna was
Yeah.
one of the goddesses. Few people know she's not as well known
Mhm.
as Sedna. She's pretty cool. I mean, she has her hands were cut off by her father, and her eye was poked out.
Oh wow.
So the
That's
woman
rough.
who was embodying
Mhm.
her, she had her hands were
Hands
covered
in
with
it.
socks,
Yeah.
and she was like in the face of these people in the front row. It's really effective.
It
Yeah.
has to be. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I would
think
too.
I would love to see that. I wish that someone would.
It's
would do
beautiful.
that.
I would love to do it again, but I don't think it's ever going to happen.
That's too bad.
So long story. A lot of the masks have been sold.
Right.
Most of them have now, and some of them were borrowed back for that. Well, not for that one. They hadn't been sold yet. But I had a chorus. I called them Corby and I forgot what I called them. But there was a very small chorus of about 6 people. And between each goddess, when she would leave, her talk was done. The sound to her retreating was I am here. Have you ever heard that?
I don't
It's a
think I've
script.
heard that one.
So we did that, and we did a rough one at Pantheacon, and I did a less rough one at New College, and it was time to revive it. Parliament was coming along,
Uh-huh.
so I submitted it as a proposal to the Parliament, having no idea how I would pull it off. And it was accepted. I have a feeling that Phyllis had something to do with the fact that it was accepted. And also at that Parliament, there's a woman named Lydia Rule. I don't know if you've ever heard of her.
I have heard of her.
Ruyle. She's
Yeah.
passed since then. But she made a whole series of very long, like 8 feet long goddess banners. And the corridor outside of the room where we were doing the performance at the Parliament was lined with all
Oh
these
my
gosh.
spectacular
That must have been
banners.
amazing.
Yeah, it was.
That's so
And
cool.
I think there is probably documentation
Probably
of that.
somewhere.
Documentation of that.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
We'll have to see if we can find that, and if we can,
Yeah, we'll
we'll
put a
edit a
link.
link into the
Yeah.
the YouTube description.
Absolutely.
I have a few like rough ones. I had a stroke only 3 months before it happened, so I was hobbling along, and I barely was making it. But so I had planned it in great detail on a private Facebook group, and I had all the files up. So the people who were embodying the goddesses, A, they had to be coming to the Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
B, they had to be experienced priestesses and had
Yeah.
some confidence in them. And C, they had to be low maintenance.
If you've got if you have to
I have had
manage
some
that
You do
many,
not need to deal with personalities
Well,
when
a
you're
lot
doing
of people
something.
Yeah.
need a lot of hand holding, and I just didn't have the luxury of
Yep.
doing that.
well, and there are so many moving parts to that
Oh,
ritual.
yeah.
Like,
You got to be able to
It
just
was
do your
amazing. It was
thing
amazing.
and be okay.
So I had the 13 goddesses and 13 women. They were all women. Some of them have had a male carry one of the goddesses if they wanted to. I mean, I didn't limit it. But I asked people, and I had people from all over the country: New Mexico, New York, Florida, California, and England. They didn't know each other for the most part. Never had met each other. But they knew me. And apparently they had enough confidence so that they came together. We were, the arrangements, my understanding from what I had submitted, I assumed it was accepted as it was presented. And it was presented with a layout of how the chair should be. And it was also, I requested a rehearsal time. And we got neither.
Oh no!
So we changed the seating arrangement, but we had a lot of issues. We had a lot of problems with ops from the Salt Palace. They were really upset. We almost had to cancel at the last minute because
Oh my gosh!
the head of ops was not too
None too pleased.
accommodating. So, but we did it, and with a.
And this
some
is at the
obstacles.
World Parliament of
Yeah,
Religion.
Yeah.
And Ruth Barrett conducted the chorus, a little chorus of about 6 or 8 people. There was a drum. Yeah, there was a drummer. And I have a friend, the tech person, who I have to say his name and rave about. His name is Jeffrey Alba, Albaugh. And he was a tech person. And at the last minute, we had all the songs, the lead-in songs on a CD. And for whatever reason, it wouldn't come up on anybody's computer.
Oh God!
So it was lost. We had the list, but we didn't have the sources.
Yeah.
So that had to be reconstructed at the very last minute.
Oh,
And he did all of this stuff. He sacrificed his presence at a lot of the
Yeah.
in order to
Make it
up to
work.
speed.
Yeah.
So I want to give him a lot of strokes for that.
Credit.
And so we had 3 readers. The readers did have rehearsals because there's only 3 of us together. That we could find a little corner. One of them was Candace Kant, who is now the academic dean of Cherry Hill Seminary.
Oh, okay.
Which I would love to talk about sometimes. It's dear to my heart. And I was one. And the third one was Vivian Crowley.
okay.
So they had different accents.
Yeah.
So Phyllis is working on some kind of a video.
We have a fire sale at the pin table.
Sorry, guys, we've got another interruption
Small,
for Pagans in Need.
This is live.
Yep.
Yep. This is live. You're getting the full experience, people.
We have a competition. Morgana and Leanne.
Hi.
They've just been given a signal to tone it down.
Anyway, so if you couldn't tell, Penn is having a flash sale on their t-shirts.
They're trying to sell all their t-shirts.
And this
That's
is live.
And this
Yep.
is live.
That's what happens.
Yep.
It's serendipity.
That's
Just how
right.
it be.
That's right. So,
So Phyllis is working on something?
so Bill, you said Phyllis is working on something.
No, I didn't.
I thought,
Okay.
okay. Well, actually, let's
Although Phyllis and I should be working
yes.
on something because we're doing a ritual.
Yeah, you know,
That's true. Let's jump to you. Also said that you've been doing work in prison.
In prison, yeah.
Yes.
Prison industry.
Tell
So
us a little bit about that.
Well, San Quentin State Prison is in a metropolitan area. If you are a male and you are incarcerated in the state of California, you want to be at San Quentin. It's not only progressive, but it's in a metropolitan area, so there's over 700 volunteers. People go in and play baseball, people go in and play tennis, people conduct meditations. There's veterans groups, there's No More Tears, Restorative Justice, which there's a wonderful TV series going on right now called The Redemption Project with Van Jones. I just mentioned that because it's really incredible. It's on CNN. It has nothing to do with witchcraft. It's CNN, the Redemption Project, Van Jones. There's another TV program called United Shades of America.
Okay.
That the host is W. Kamau Bell, who's a stand-up in our area in Berkeley. And he goes to a lot of different unusual segments of society. But one of the programs is done in San Quentin. with a lot of.
Okay.
So I mention that because you can get a better idea of what it's like at San Quentin, and
Yeah.
in particular, our sponsors at the very end. So I was kind of, I wasn't working a straight job, and I'm old, and I wasn't looking for a job.
Mm-hmm.
So these guys did a spell. There was a Wiccan circle in the practicing on their own
In San Quentin.
In
in
San
San
Quentin.
Quentin already.
Okay.
And see, there's more of them. Oh, I have a little prison group too. That's a whole thing, and I'll talk about that in my talk this afternoon. But they did a spell, and somebody who's in it, whose wife is not, they put it on a general Bay Area pagan list that they wanted somebody to come into San Quentin. And I said, okay. And turns out I live 4 miles from San
Oh,
Quentin.
okay.
It's no
Gosh.
big
So yeah,
deal.
it's close to you.
Yeah.
And most prisons are in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Can't get any
Yeah.
volunteers at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been volunteering there for about 6 years. You have to have an in-house sponsor of one of the employed chaplains, and there's a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
So first we were working with the Jewish chaplain, and the guys decided they would fit more with the Native American chaplain. So we worked with him for a while, and now the Catholic father is our sponsor, and he's a lovely, lovely man. And if you see the CNN program,
He's on there.
he's at the very end, yeah, just
Okay.
a little bit. You'll see. You can tell this from very much up. Anyway, and it's changed because it's rules shift. It's
Sure.
crazy, and the bureaucracy is crazy. But you just have to accommodate. We were talking earlier about the terms. They call it a Wiccan circle.
Mm-hmm.
I call myself a witch. I don't consider myself a Wiccan. But the bureaucracy understands Wiccan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I go with it.
Yep. Sometimes you got to use the words people will understand.
Yeah.
And it's real challenging, not the people, but because of the limitations of what I can do. I'm used to working mostly with women.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to a lot of intimacy. You can't have that.
Yeah.
You can't hug people, stuff like that. I'm used to sometimes sky clad. Obviously, that's not.
not an
Not gonna
option.
happen.
But you really can't raise energy very much. The ecstasy factor. is
Yeah.
Oh,
not-
It's
yeah.
difficult
Not
to
really a
accomplish.
good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not used to working with, certainly not all of them.
Mhm.
So I have tried to find design rituals that demonstrate something positive that's male.
Mhm.
For instance, at the winter solstice, I happened to find a colloquy between the Oak King and the Holly King on Dave Gabbard's website.
Oh, very cool.
We got a
That's how I-
carpenter bee. Don't worry
bee
about
is
him.
Visiting.
You can put that link into it. So it's almost the same. And so they read that to each other. We can't have statuary.
Mhm.
I like a lot of visuals. So I did this actually. I'm going to back up and say what they had when I arrived. When I arrived, and the Jewish chaplain had to sit in with me and see if I was
Nice.
suitable.
We got it. Yeah, good job, family. Good job.
There's
There's been a bird trapped in the vendor hall.
This is a live.
The challenges and the joys
Yep.
of live
Just trying to-
podcasting.
Just trying to ride it out.
So what they had before you
They
arrived?
had a square piece of cloth, 24 inches square, with
Uh-huh.
a burn hole in it, and a stubby white pillar candle,
Uh-huh.
and a wooden bowl, and a salt shaker.
Oh, wow.
That was it.
So they had the bare essentials.
Yeah.
That just goes to prove to you guys, you don't have to have very much to have ritual.
make it work.
That's
You can
right.
make it work.
That's right. So the first thing I did is I had some stuff of my own that I brought in. And I had to go through,
Mhm.
all the
Yeah, go
forms
through,
and
get
all
it
the
all
permissions
approved
stuff,
and
right?
everything.
I bought an altar cloth, an abalone shell, a piece of amethyst, and some feathers, because I feel very strongly that there should be something from each of the elements, a natural on an altar. And then as I said, we couldn't have statuary, so I got more supplies later because I had outside sponsors. I'm not doing this on behalf of any organization. I'm not unwilling to, but
Right.
they just called me and I said
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So, but there are a couple of people who spoke to me privately and said, if you need any help with expenses
Mhm.
and supplies and stuff, um, I can help you. So it did depend on them. And it wasn't a lot, but it was more to get set up.
Mhm.
It cost money. So one of the things we meet in a room, mostly that's a storeroom off the breezeway, and a lot of small meetings happen in there, but it's really grim. White concrete blocks
Mhm.
and white with a gray linoleum floor of concrete, so very unwelcoming. So we set up an altar on this folding table, just like the one we're sitting at now. And we got? Tibetan prayer flags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got one with the 8 Sabbaths
Oh,
Okay.
and one
nice.
with 5 elements,
Okay.
and we string them around the room
Okay. Nice.
to try to
Yeah, to
make
Make
warm
it
it
more
up
of
a
a
little.
ritual
Yeah.
space. Yeah.
to sort of claim the space.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We now have a locker for all that stuff, which we didn't. And I got them a bunch of tools and a bunch of incense. Fortunately, they like incense.
Good.
A lot of people that I encounter are sensitive to it and
Mhm.
can't be exposed to it. They love it, and I love it. So we get it really smoky.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons I love it is because when they leave, they carry it in their clothes and in their hair.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so there's, even if you're not conscious of it, there's an awareness
Yeah.
of having had that
That sacredness.
That's
experience,
sacredness.
right? And smell is pretty primal.
Yeah, it's actually one of the strongest memory
It is.
triggers.
It is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we do a lot of incense in those, and we have those flags. And when there's Sabbaths, actually, some of them at Yule, at Yule and Samhain, I bought those, and I can take these in. I don't need permission for these. But in the party stores, they have those garlands,
Yeah.
crepe paper garlands. that
Yeah.
stretch out.
Yeah.
So I have one with black and white and orange skulls.
Nice.
So they
Nice.
have a green and red one we take out. So it adds to a
Mhm.
more festive atmosphere. And we can't, as I said, we can't have statuary. And I really like imagery, so I got 3 of those plexiglass stands that you put.
Mhm.
I have 2 vertical and 1 horizontal, and they change depending on what we're doing. So, for instance, when we did the winter solstice with the Oak King and the Holly King, there was a picture of the Oak King on one, Holly King on the other, and a depiction of their battle.
Mm,
okay.
yeah.
So
Very
it's really
cool.
nice. And then 2 of the men would read the parts to each other. It's really
That's very cool.
I
Yeah.
That's very
loved it
cool.
too. Yeah, I have. I really don't have any idea what I'm doing, to be honest.
No, it's because
Having them read it to each other, though, I really like that. Since you can't have that physical intimacy, you can at least
Yeah.
create that sort of emotional intimacy of
And-
having them.
Well, and it also is more participatory for them
Uh-huh.
right.
because
And-
their life is so circumscribed.
Mhm.
There's very little adaptability, flexibility.
Mhm.
And so I think I give them the opportunity to be more to stretch.
Right.
Yeah, to have a little more
If that
agency.
makes any
Yeah.
sense.
And you mentioned earlier when we were first talking about it before we actually went live, you were saying, there's a lot of groups that go into prisons, but not a lot of pagan presence. Would you say that's
Well, yes and no.
correct?
There are more pagans in the world, so of course
Right.
there are
So
more
now we're
pagans in
starting
prisons.
to start.
And who's in prisons anyway?
Well,
People
I'm
of
not talking about the
color,
prisoners.
mentally ill,
Right.
Yeah.
veterans.
Right.
I mean, society's
That's true.
cast off
Yeah.
is in, so
Mhm.
it's disproportionate.
Yeah.
Right.
But another thing about being in prison is that's when a lot of people find religion.
Yeah.
Right,
You
right.
go in without one and you
may
come out
go in
with
with
something
one or
new.
You may not, but yeah. So that's and they're interested. So
Mhm.
Right.
I'm not. I really have a big thing against proselytization because it's too much of a part of
Yeah.
Mhm.
my childhood. I find it really offensive and rude, really.
Mhm.
And so I don't want to do that, but I
Right.
do want to also
Make
be
something
open.
available.
Right. Be available
I guess
without
that was
being
my
pushy.
question. Is that because are you encouraging like the pagan community to reach out more and to offer opportunities for people, or just be available?
I'm not encouraging anybody, but I get requests. What is that word? I get requests from. Well, I'll tell you about how that works out.
Mhm.
So some of the times I only use a goddess because I'm a goddess person myself. So at Bridget we use a goddess, and at Samhain the Morgan. I've had to do a lot of improvisation things.
Mhm.
So for the Oak King and Holly King, when we do that with those pictures on the altar, I printed out a bunch of oak leaves and holly's twigs off the internet and cut them all out.
Yeah.
And put them on the altar. They actually look like real leaves when you lay them down.
Nice.
So, and at Samhain, I have a drawing of a skull that's about this big. And I photocopied a bunch of them, cut them all out. We all had skulls on the altar, which they, during a meditative time, they were given a skull and they could write on it a message to someone who's gone or their name or prayer or whatever.
That's neat.
And they take them with them. And at Bridget, I cut out a bunch of bridges, made all these bridges crosses.
Right.
I couldn't bring reeds in. So
Yeah.
I
Right.
make them. So I got these bridges crosses, and the same thing after the ritual, they take them and they hang in their cells, which is I think so cool.
Yeah, that is
They
very
have this little
cool.
protection thing.
Yeah.
That's very
So,
cool.
But I didn't have any training.
Yeah,
And
right.
You're just volunteering your time.
Well, I'm just also improvising
Yeah.
within the limitations of it.
Yeah.
We didn't have an outdoor space. We wanted one ultimately. And the other thing I did, I encourage a devotion and somebody to choose a deity to devote oneself or learn from. And it can be more than one, or it can be one for a while and another one. But so for them, sometimes they tell me, sometimes they don't, or sometimes they don't know. But I print out a 8.5 by 11 picture of whatever deity it is and put it in a plastic sheet protector, and they can have it. They take it, so they
Nice.
can use it at all
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
they like it. So I have most of the circle, most of the time, it varies a little bit from some I go, but most of the circle, most of the time, which I was kind of surprised at.
Well, I mean, they disproportionately fill the prison system, so
Yeah.
Well, yeah, for sure, but it's so British oriented. At least that's where it sprang from primarily. So, I mean, I'm happy. I have tried to find deities in particular that are reflective of what their culture is.
of
So
that
for the
heritage.
so for the Mexican guys, I usually can use Guadalupe, whom I consider the goddess of the North America. And there was a Thai guy who came one time, and I found images of a goddess called Mai Thor and I. Who knows who that is, right? Very obscure.
I haven't heard of that one.
I go to the American Academy of Religion every year, and
You're
I
right.
listen to these talks. And one of the talks some years ago by an Asian woman was about Mai Thor and I. Mai Thor and I is she's depicted. She's underneath on the base of all the Buddha statues. So she's present.
Okay.
Because she was there before the Buddha.
Oh.
And
Gotcha.
she's pictured washing her hair.
Okay.
And all those blessings that are coming down on
neat.
from her washing her hair.
That's beautiful. That's
Yeah,
very
so I found that for that guy. He
very
didn't come
cool.
back, but I still thought it was cool to find.
Yeah. Very cool.
So some of them choose a goddess and some choose a god. I have one guy that's really into Bridget, one who's really into Kermunos. So that's one of the. I've just really tried to be as creative as I can under the circumstances. So we didn't have an outdoor space, and I will say this right at the top, and this goes for at least 30 years. Our allies in getting accommodations in prison institutions are the Native Americans.
That makes sense.
They
Yeah.
normally get the permission for whatever
Yeah.
before we do, and if they get it, we get it.
Right. You can argue.
Like for instance, they can have a feather that's up to 12 inches. Not every witch needs a feather, but as I said, I want it.
You want that
Exactly.
representative.
Yeah, so they can. The Muslims have 24 by 24
Prayer.
prayer
Yeah.
room,
Right.
which is how they happen to have a piece of cloth
Yep.
because they could have it, and they do it in their own cell too if they can find the room. It's
Mhm.
really small.
Yeah.
But I think most of them are out of their cells most of the time. The California prison system has 5 categories of inmates. Level 5 is death row,
Mhm.
which is there at San Quentin, but I have no
interaction
exposure-
with that.
yeah, not at all. But all the other ones that interact, I don't know if it's true with all the volunteers, but certainly me, they're all level 1 and 2.
Mhm.
So they're pretty socialized. Some
Right.
of them are on their way out, and some of them are lifers, but they're making the best of it. I
Good
guess.
behavior.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. So it's comfortable in that regard. Where was I going with that?
We got a little bit coming back.
Short-term memory is so short. I apologize.
It's okay.
That's
And there's a lot to say.
yeah.
So Indians, Native
Yeah.
Americans.
Native Americans.
Native American.
So at San Quentin, they have a fenced-off outdoor space in the main yard
Okay.
that has a sweat lodge.
Oh, okay.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's
very
it's
cool.
not- I would not expect that at,
No.
at any prison.
No.
There are a lot of them at prisons now because I guess there's a lot of Native Americans.
Right, yes.
They have to be Native, at least some Native to participate in that.
Mhm.
It's not open to everybody.
Right.
In our case,
Right.
it's anybody. But they have a sweat. They have a herb place where they can grow sacred herbs.
Okay.
And they have a drum. So big,
very
big
cool.
drums that
Yeah,
they
yeah.
sit around.
Yeah.
And they've actually had a couple of powwows.
Oh, nice.
That's very cool.
Again, it's difficult, challenging.
Yeah. The challenge. They have to work around the system.
It's cool. But we wanted an outdoor space.
Mhm.
They had an outdoor space.
Right.
There are 4 pagan groups that I know of at
Mhm.
San Quentin. Different prisons have different populations. But there's the Wiccans, which is not very big. There's Odinists, which is much bigger.
Uh-huh.
There's an Ephod group,
Okay.
and there's a Hawaiian group. I don't know exactly what they do. But we did get an outdoor space. And when I was first, Hector, who was the Indian chaplain, he took me down to show it to me. And it was bleak, man. It was a maybe basketball court sized,
Mhm.
flat piece of mud
Mm.
surrounded by chain link fence.
Oh, man.
That's all it was.
Man.
Well, and the Native Americans have a tree, which is pretty cool because it's bright and sunny.
Mhm.
There's not much respite from the sun. At this point, we've had it for a while. Different groups have gone in and done different things with it. There's a little house that the Ifa people they can go a long time and do their ancestor
Right.
obeisance. And the Odinists did a lot of stuff. They don't have much, but now we have some plants around the edges.
Mhm.
It's starting to catch. The gardens where public comes in, like in the courtyard and stuff
Mhm.
of San Quentin, are beautifully tended. And they have like gorgeous plants, hyper tended, really.
Mhm.
But they managed to get cuttings from a lot of them from the people who do the upkeep of the gardens.
Okay.
So they planted some stuff. It's sort of softened that group. The first time we did a circle down there, I hung banners across the chain link fence between us and the yard. I haven't done that since then, but so after we had it for a while, they now have a roof shelter kind of thing.
Okay.
They have 2 picnic tables and they have a row of lockers for their supplies. So that's down at the outdoor space. So it's not quite as unwelcome.
Yeah.
But we want a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to get one because I think the guards can't see.
Mm.
I'm
I
guessing.
gotcha.
I'm
just
guessing.
interferes with
Yeah. Yeah.
the sight lines
Like-
or whatever. Yeah.
So I don't know if we're going to get a tree or not. Father George, who is our sponsor, would like a tree too. We're kind of waiting for some of the administration to change.
Mm.
Administration rotates a lot in
Yeah.
the system.
So you just have to
And
kind of
some
wait
the
for
wardens, some of
Yeah.
the wardens are more than others. Some of them are more accommodating than others.
Yeah.
Right now we have a warden and assistant warden.
Just
warden
gotta-
who are not
just got to
particularly-
time your decisions and your requests for the right
So
warden.
we're waiting a
That's
little
right.
bit. We might get a tree. we'll see.
Okay.
So they have some plants down there, and I had one of our rituals down there to make the space ours.
Mhm.
We collected all these rocks, about this big,
Mhm.
and made drew a pentacle with a circle around
Oh,
it
Okay.
on
neat.
the ground
Yeah.
because other people, they had to leave behind.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted our presence to be more noticeable.
Mm-hmm. Visible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we consecrated that, and the idea was eventually, because that was winter, to plant flowers around, to make it in flowers around. So,
Mhm.
and it was in a lower spot, in a flat thing, but it was a little lower, and it got flooded out because
Oh
we
no.
had these giant rains
Mm-hmm.
last year after we had giant fires.
Mm-hmm.
And out the hillside is sliding down and all that. But so it got really washed out. But before that, they were not. It wasn't easy for them to water it.
Mm-hmm.
The Native American guys have a hose, but we would have to go out to the drinking fountain and then carry a little cup or something and then back and forth. So it was hard to keep anything alive in that regard. But sometimes they are able to collect something from the hose. They stick it through from the Native American place, and so they can water some stuff that's near that side of the chain link fence. And the other thing that I've done, one of the things I'm most happy about, is I've been sneaking in flower seeds.
Oh.
Now that could really
I was
get
going
me
to
in
say,
trouble.
do you want to admit this?
Well, I hope no.
Hopefully
Probably-
nobody from
probably not.
that system is going to be watching.
No prison authorities are going to watch this, but it could be drugs or something. But it's
Right.
not. It's little packets.
Little packets of seeds.
But I just really want to beautify it. There's so little beauty in there.
Yeah.
They do have a lot of activities in San Quentin in particular that kind of relieve the tedium.
Yeah.
But they have a peace day, and they sometimes have a blues concert or something like that in the yard. So that's what we've done. There's something else in there. When I came, I asked them for the script they'd been using, and they gave me a copy of it. It was kind of polemic in orientation, which is not my cup of tea. And it had a lot of what I would consider to be fractured Elizabethan English. A lot of these and thous. Well, we do it my way. They're glad to have me. They can, when I'm not there, they can do it
However they want. That's right.
because there's one guy who was a Wiccan, I think, in Michigan before he was incarcerated. Nobody else had any experience.
Gotcha.
There's a library there, but libraries in the prisons, if you get pagan books in there, they disappear. And either the inmates take them and keep them, or the librarians destroy them, depending on the librarian. But some prisons, they've really vanished. So all the books I've been able to get in, which is a giant pain, are in their locker. There's a locker up in the breezeway between the storeroom, and there's another one down where the
outdoor spaces. Yeah.
So we have books that we keep in there, and we have created they had one already, but I've made it better and with more stuff in it. A binder of shadows.
Oh, good.
Good.
So all the rituals that we've done are in there. There are lots of scripts, poetry, and photographs. And there's also I have a friend named Stephen Posh. Again, check this out. He has a blog on witches and pagans.
Okay.
I forget exactly the name of it, but you can find it on Witches and Pagans. His name is Stephen Posh. Posch.
Okay.
I would love to see him at this festival. He's in Minneapolis. Anyway, what was I going to say about him? I did a little commercial for him, and now I can't remember what I was going to say.
We're talking about the binder of shadows.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
His blog, which is really good. They're short and pithy. They're like fewer than 500 words usually. A lot of them are very God-oriented, and a lot of them are very historical because he's quite a scholar. And a lot of those I've printed out.
And included in the binder?
The binder of shadows. Right.
Nice.
And there's also, I found online, a redemption ritual that was created by an inmate in another prison. I don't know where, but I found it. And I've given that to them as well.
Yeah.
And then for all of them too. Those you can get this paper from the stationery store that looks like a parchment. It's like a scroll. So I put the Charge of the Goddess on one of them. I put the Drichten Prayer on one of them. And I give that to each of them. Because I'm trying to give them useful things that if and when they get out and decide to seek out pagan worship opportunities, that they'll know what's going on and they'll be able to participate more fully.
They'll have the tools they
That's
need.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I don't use a Drichten prayer generally speaking, but it's very common, particularly in Brit tracts. So I bring that in. Charge is universal as far as I know. I don't think there's any rich tradition that doesn't have
The Charge of the
Yeah,
Goddess
it's
is
very,
some
very.
version of that.
Yeah.
And then another commercial coming up here. It's for
And then we
Ardent
probably
Tea.
need to wrap up.
Huh?
We'll probably need to wrap up after your
Okay.
commercial, and then you can tell us how we can find you.
Yes.
Oh, I think he already put it in.
Yeah, it's
Oh, is it already
yep,
in? Okay, good.
It's in the description.
Oh, good.
Ardentane, I have a couple more things to say about business. Ardentane, what were we talking about before that? I know one thing I was going to say about them. Well, one of the things they've done is they've created about a 30-page learner's workbook,
Okay.
and they will send it to inmates who request it.
Oh, good.
And if they don't charge, I had them send about a dozen to this prison. I only have recently gotten them. And then the people who have been semi-sponsors, unofficial sponsors, I said, could you make a donation to Ardentane? They're in New Mexico. Oh, I know what it was. One of the things that I got out of Ardentane, again, these are COG connections. I'm going to make a commercial for COG too, cog.org, for all kinds of witches, and does a lot of interfaith.
That's Covenant of Goddess.
Covenant of Goddess. I represent them in most of my interfaith activities. And like I was saying about the Silicon Valley, the Monroe and Fairfield, they're founding members. COG is a founding member of that. And there's an environmental religious group that I'm part of, and COG's a founding member.
Cool.
It is pretty cool. So prisons. I was going to say something about prisons, wasn't I?
Yes.
Yep. You
So
have one more
they-
thing to say.
They the permanent stuff. The people in Ardentane wrote a read or something. I think they call it of the God. It's very beautiful, and it has they have it on PDF.
Mine have been nipping around over a year.
So I've given them each one of them that. It's very positive image, male,
Right.
you know. So
Right, because a lot of the men who go into the prison system have a lot of toxic masculinity sort of baked in, and then the prison system just sort of reinforces a lot of that.
Yeah.
So it's good for them to get positive images
yeah.
of masculinity.
And I have them do I gave them all, also that I give them all, is a diagram from Christopher Penzak book of tree, meditative tree, and a meditation from the Pagan Book of Living and Dying.
Yeah.
Right?
That's your book, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so there's a sample kind of tree of life meditation in there. So give them the picture of that.
Yeah.
And I want them
absolutely.
all to do it, and I want them to learn every role and be able to perform every role. And the person who runs it when I'm not there does the whole thing. And he's competent, but it's a different style.
Yeah.
And he's got a wonderful booming voice. And but I don't really think you need to yell.
Yeah. That's
If you're in an outdoor or public ritual, you want to make yourself heard for sure.
Sure.
But in a little storeroom.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's a bit about the inmate ministry. I was asked by the main chaplain of the state of California. All the chaplains in California institutions, the Department of the prison system, the juvenile justice, veterans, disabled, there's all these different departments. And they all have chaplains. And they're required to take something like a CEU every year for 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
So they wanted a presentation on paganism.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I thought, wow.
Yeah.
You know, I thought this was a heavy thing to carry for me because I wanted to be true to
Right.
stuff, and some of them I don't practice.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. For those of you who don't know what CEU means, that's Continuing Education Unit.
right. So I did go. I prepared one. One again,
Mhm.
and I spoke to them, and I told them it was paganism was a big umbrella term,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
but there were three that were most likely to appear in a prison situation. Plenty was going on. One was Wicca, of course, heathenry and druidry.
Mhm.
So I focused on those.
Mm-hmm.
We, for instance, we cited 42 something Mott. There's a 42 principles or 42 ideals. Ideals, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So so they, and for the heathens, of course, I gave them stuff that's
Terrible.
Not.
exclusively not racist.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. Registration is over there.
So I gave that talk, and they wanted to give it at a couple other gatherings of chaplains in other parts of the state, because it's a big state. And I gave them the PowerPoint, and then I prepared a 2-page, really minimal reference that I sent them in PDF for all the chaplains, anyone who wanted it. The questions I got were from chaplains who had a lot of onus or assature, because that's a pretty big deal. And the women's prison, I mentioned in the women's in particular that in Wicca anyway, at least, that a lot of women have found a lot of healing from doing that work. And that's why I was kind of encouraging it, if there was a possibility in their institutions.
Yeah.
So they were fascinated, because they're really operating in the dark.
Yeah.
They have what the inmates tell them.
Yeah.
Than anything else.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a great opportunity, and I did that. And a week later, I got a phone call from the imam at Folsom State Prison.
Wow.
With 6 members of the Wiccan Circle on speakerphone.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And they were looking for someone to come in and for resources and all that. I gave them some resources, but I've been looking for someone to come in for months. There was a women's prison, and this is a partial answer to your question earlier. There was a women's prison in, not too far from us, but far enough, 50 miles, 80 miles. It's a federal prison, and all the prisons have different rules.
Yep.
I know the problem here in this state is private prisons.
Yes.
Which is really terrible.
Yeah.
But anyway, these are state prisons and federal prisons. So they have women, and they want someone to come in for the women. It took me like 3 years. I finally found a woman with an MDiv, and you don't have to have one to go in here, at least not in California. I don't have one. And she's only able to go in twice a year, but they'll take whatever we can
Right.
get. I still don't have any for Folsom, and we get requests all the time. There's a really solid druid group up in Eastern Washington that Kirk Thomas has a few people who volunteer with. In fact, they had a Samhain celebration with the heathens and the druids and witches
That's very
together.
cool.
That's very
This one
cool.
particular prison.
Very cool.
But they don't go in very often. I go in more often.
Yeah.
And
So there's more.
so there's a huge
There's more need
Yeah.
than
and
there
we
is.
don't have the training. We don't have the
Right.
people. We don't have the population.
Yeah, we don't have enough clergy.
Enough clergy.
I hate that word.
I know.
And I won't,
But it's
I
what
don't-
but it's what
the- it's what the-
it's what the administration will
And it's what the
understand.
It is what the
overculture
administrative-
understands.
It is an overculture. You're absolutely right. And I don't like to reinforce it. I'll accept it.
That's fair.
In there, but
Fair.
I don't call myself clergy. I accept them if they ask. Even with them, they've never asked, and I have never said.
So, do you recommend people becoming then like chaplains or something so that they could work in the prisons?
Well, yes and
As-
no. I
as-
mean, the satisfaction is what the men get from it. It's not you get
Right.
paid or anything, unless
Right,
you're
yeah.
a paid prison chaplain,
Right.
which there are. And if you have an MDiv, you could possibly conceivably be
Right.
hired.
But
You
you
have-
said
I mean-
like you didn't need one.
But you didn't, yeah, because you're
No, but
volunteering.
I'm under
Right, you're
chaplain.
sponsored
Right.
by a chaplain.
But
Okay.
so if if there were pagan who qualified, say, had an MDiv and got hired by a
Mhm.
prison,
Mhm.
and they might be supervising other stuff
Okay.
as well as pagan
Okay.
stuff.
Otherwise, if a pagan wanted to go in and volunteer to assist with any pagan groups that were in the prison, then they would need a sponsor from.
Well, it need more than that. If they
Yeah.
want to go on a regular basis, yes,
Right,
they need
okay.
a sponsor.
Okay.
You can bring some people in with a gate pass, which is you can get for a limited amount of time, like 90 days or something.
Right.
And so I brought a few people. I brought Sam Webster in there to do a whole teaching on his
Right.
method of working with Hermes.
Yeah.
And he brought a book that he wrote about this practice, and he got books for everybody.
Yeah.
Again, took me 2 years to get some
Yeah.
of those supplies in there, so I didn't want to go through that.
Yeah.
So we took the books to Father George
Yeah.
Yeah.
outside of his home. And Father George brought him in.
So it's a need that really needs to be addressed, is what you're saying.
And it sounds like the variation between administrations and between individual
is what
prisons
causes
is so
the problem.
is so significant that you're basically just going to have to approach whatever outreach organizations are in your community, or approach prisons directly and see what you need, to do if there's a community in your local prisons that needs outreach.
Yep.
With the cautionary, it's not about recruiting.
No,
Right. No,
yes.
no.
It's not
This is not a
evangelism.
recruiting issue.
We-
This is
we
just to
have
assist
a,
those who are there.
We have a no proselytizing rule in our group communities.
Yep.
Yeah, there's also, aside from that book, workbook I was telling you that Ardentane put out, I think it's ardentane.org. You can find it later. Cherry Hill Seminary has a series of 8. I forget what they're called, but inmates buy them. They seem to be going like crazy. $5 a piece. Pretty reasonable. And that have pagan rituals, not witching particularly. It's
Right.
just
Sort of,
combination
Just combinations of
crazy
things.
about myself, but it's there. But Cherry Hill Seminary is one of the places, if you're gonna,
If you want to do this,
if you want to go that route, it doesn't make you a better witch. It doesn't make you. But pagan
But it gets you the
ministries,
piece of paper.
they
we
get to the
have
paper.
there is there's an Appalachian pagan ministry who serve Ohio and West Virginia. There's a ministry called Mother Earth Ministries out of Tucson. There's nothing in California except scattered volunteers. There's some people that go in Massachusetts irregularly. Same with South Carolina. I'm not in touch with every pagan who goes into these places, but I would like us to have an overall professional organization.
A more coherent network.
For a while, or beyond a network. For a while, there was a fellow in Southern California who had created this, what we call the National Association of Pagan Correctional Chaplains. But it died because he wasn't interested in it. And they had a website which had all the rules and regulations for prisons and that kind of stuff. And, and resources and they weren't there yet. My notion is resources and cues, clues about how to do it. And I keep hoping, it's out there for the world, I keep hoping that an MDiv student at Cherry Hill Seminary will take this on as a project.
Right.
Because I'm too old and I don't really want to. I would love to participate and be a mentor or advisor or something, but I don't want to.
So
Be in charge of
that is a challenge to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
That is a challenge to you. There's someone out there who the universe is saying, this is your
time.
calling. It's your time. So listen to the call.
And you have to be really. I mean, you can't go in there with big cleavage or stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Which
Right.
some people have done. A lot of witches have done that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, that gets us in trouble.
Right,
And
right.
it makes
right.
it less. They're less hospitable to other
Yeah.
In the future.
Got to go in respectful and follow the rules and do what's necessary, because there are established groups.
Yeah.
As Macha was saying, this is not a proselytizing thing. You're not going in to make pagans.
Yeah.
You're going in to
serve
serve the
pagans.
pagans who are already there.
Yeah.
So
And it's very satisfying. We're really grateful.
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
I didn't
And
get to
thank
finish
you
about
for
the masks.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I got you distracted, but this has been fascinating talking to you. And you have classes coming up today, or a ritual coming up today? Both. So
I have
thank
a
you.
talk about. It's going to include this prison stuff.
Very
a whole lot
cool.
Other mundane stuff that
Mhm.
that
Yeah, have paganism's gone mainstream.
Yeah.
the spiritual meets the secular.
The
right?
spiritual
that's
meets
at
the
2
secular.
p.m.
Mhm.
And then Phyllis and I are doing the main ritual tonight.
Right. Right.
Believe it or not.
At
We have not been able to connect since we
coordinate.
have been here.
Yeah.
We've done a lot by email and phone, but that was before we got. I haven't
Yeah.
even seen her. So.
Well, you
to-
you
We'll be
knew
on a
from the
panel.
you've
Right,
done
yeah,
this on
exactly.
the fly before, so I'm sure.
And that's why
it'll
I'm
be
dressed like this because I wouldn't have time to go back to the hotel and change before the ritual. So
Right.
I'll dress for the day.
all right. Well,
Anyway, thank you.
we'll,
Thank
we'll
you
let you
so
go.
much.
Thank you for sitting with us. Hopefully, you can find Phyllis.
Yeah.
Or she can find me.
Yeah, there you go. You connect somehow.
Mhm.
Again,
We
really,
will.
truly, thank
We
you
will.
so much for spending
You're
time with
welcome.
us. We appreciate it.
Anytime. I can suggest people too.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
All right.
You want to
So,
hit the
yep.
hit the goodbye.
Bye. Yeah, I got a lot of commercials in there.
Yeah, you did. And thank you.